as the Shantwell Queen. Well, D as in dynamic. Shantwell Queen. Upon my YouTube channel, I am Warrior Empress, where you can view all the past episodes of The Feminine Drive, as well as my music. And on Facebook, I am simply Warrior Empress or Akilah Aje. Same person. They say a rose by any name is just as sweet. So how we doing this Friday evening? How are we? How we doing? Trinidad and Tobago, bit by bit, we are getting back there. I wouldn't want to say normal because, trust me, I don't think anything will get back to what we knew back then as normal, but some sort of normalcy, bit by bit, we're getting back there. But don't drop the ball. Continue to stay safe. Wash your hands. Keep your social distance, etc. So this evening on The Feminine Drive, we are going to discuss the Merikins. I am really excited to learn about this subject. Trust me. I mean, I'm around in society and I have been hearing things here and there about the Merikins. But you see, when you're going and get it from the real source, here now, as they say, when you want good water, you have to go to the top of the fountain, you know. You have to go to the source to get the real essence of it. Especially when the information was handed down orally from those who have the genuine source. You know, history is there to document, but nothing beats the oral tradition where we got the information from our forefathers, yes? So we're going to learn about the Merikins this evening and the contributions they made and continues to make in Trinidad and Tobago, because of course their descendants are well and alive in Trinidad and Tobago throughout the communities, right, doing different things. So I don't want to take up much time at all because the guest, listen to me, that's the person with the information. But you know, we had to go for the commercial break up on top. Yeah, we had to show some love to those who are supporting the Feminine Drive. So don't go far. Just share the live, make the phone call, send the WhatsApp. Yeah, let them know the Feminine Drive is on. We're going to be discussing the Merikins. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Ijo Olorisha charitable organization, unification of people worldwide. We exist to serve humanity. We help those in need. We help with clothes, food, shelter, and so much more. Today, we urge you to help the helpers by contributing to JMMB bank account 007 7000 17168. Thank you for helping us to continue helping those in need of help. Call us at 464-4264. Ashe.
Yes, a wonderful Friday evening. I am your host, Warrior Empress, and we are in the Gael yet another Friday to discuss a subject matter of interest. And this evening we are going to be discussing the Merikins. For those of you who just joined us, please share the live. We need to get the information out there. We are going to be discussing the Merikins, and I am waiting a second again to delay in bringing her on. Let's welcome our esteemed guest. I call her Akilah Jaramoji. Welcome to the Feminine Drive, Iya. Yes.
Welcome.
How are you, Iya?
I am good. Giving thanks.
It is important to give thanks and praise. We are still rather in the land of the living, where our prayers and supplication can be made and heard in spite of. We must give thanks and praise. Well, Iya, as I gave the introduction, we are we're going to be talking about the Merikins, and so much to learn about the Merikins. And I would simply start by asking you to tell us first the name Merikins, where it came from.
Okay, well, the oral tradition, again, I am Akilah Jaramoji from the 6 companies of soldiers in South Trinidad. And as a child, the word Merikin, you would hear it around the communities. And for us, as history would pass down to us, the Merikin derived from the word American. So my people, during the times, post, emancipation and so on, when they still had to protect themselves pre and post, because we came here in 1815, 1816. So, we had to still protect ourselves from raiders and people who searching for runaway slaves, the colonial masters searching for runaway slaves. We would have to identify ourselves. And my ancestors would say, me Merikin, instead of saying, I am an American, they would say, me Merikin, So it came from the word American, but they would say, me Merikin. So that's where the word came from. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, more or less like, of course, they would have their own mother language. That, of course, would still be with them. So it's like not having the ability to fully speak English as well, would you say?
Yes, definitely.
Right.
So because
go ahead.
Because a lot of them would have been, from Africa, Nigeria, and they would have been Yorubas. Yeah. So again, having that, speaking Yoruba and now, a little English from their times on plantations in Virginia and Georgia and so on, then coming down here, it wasn't fully, in their fully accepted as their language yet. They were still tuning into this English language. Yeah.
Right. So the Americans, as you said, it does what they said. Me Merikin and not an American.
Yeah.
There may be persons who trying to understand though why the American, why even associate themselves to say I am an American. And because the history will tell you they were freed slaves who fought for the British. Could you provide some sort of clarification there, how they fought for the British even though they were Americans?
Okay. Oh, well, they were enslaved people in America, right? Yes, enslaved people from Africa, but on plantations in America. Yeah. So for them now, during that time, 1812, they would have had some knowledge or get some information from the main house on the plantation, the house slaves and so on, would have been bringing information out in the field about something is happening. Yeah. They would have gotten some bit of information, bits and pieces about a war is about to start.
Right.
Seeing Massa pack up his wife and children and send them away, something was going on, And our people were, of course, smart people. Yeah. So with that now, they started to, when Massa gone, wife gone, they started to run away from the plantations.
Of course.
Some of them ran away and hid in the swamps and the shorelines and so on. Yeah. And then eventually the war broke out. And those who were hiding along, the shorelines and in the rivers and so on, along the swamps and stuff, they eventually saw the British there, and they offered to help. They offered their service, and the British recruited them. Well, at least they started to recruit some.
Right.
And then eventually they were bombarded by women, man, and children, on ship, because the British needed the support. They needed the ground support. They needed food. They were running out of ration. They had not enough knowledge of the interior, So again, with the slaves, the Africans, being quite knowledgeable of the territory and the inland land and stuff like that, they helped them to get to plantations and steal food and, you know, and stuff like that and take it back to the ship. So they were playing a really, really big part on the side of the British. Yeah? So that is how they get themselves, you know, with the red coat and being trained and being, you know, recruited as colonial Marines. Yeah.
Okay, so it was a kind of, what should I say, a sort of exchange for their freedom, going into the British Army or to help the British fight against the Americans. You're already runaway slaves, you know, you're not free. Well, hey, come and join us, fight for us, and earn your freedom. How did they, well, we bringing it now to the West Indies. How did that happen in terms of they coming to this part of the world? More so Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, obviously, they would have had made some kind of bargain. And again, history being told that they were offered to fight on the side of the British in return for their freedom, in return to get them out of America. And that was the bargain. So at the end of the war, 1814, they were then, you know, taken from America and sent to Bermuda. Yeah? While they decided where to send our soldiers, where to send our African soldiers after fighting on the side of the British. So then they decided, okay, while in Bermuda, they were offered again to fight. And my people said no, they don't want to fight. They want to keep up the bargain that after the war, we would be sent somewhere. We would be given our freedom. We would be taken out of America. So then following that stay in Bermuda, they were then sent to Halifax in Canada, yeah, another British territory. And while waiting there, they were then sent to South Trinidad, Trinidad being a British territory at that time as well. So they were sent to South Trinidad in batches, yeah.
Right. And, well, South Trinidad, namely Moruga, Princestown, those areas.
Savannah Grande, they called it at that time Savannah Grande, and just outside of Princestown would be, well, they call it Princestown Mission as well, and outside of Mission is the company villages where they settled in batches. Yeah.
Right. And, you know, this is quite interesting here, all what they went through. I mean, they could have ended up somewhere else, but at the time, as history would have it, Trinidad and Tobago was still under British rule. So they settled here. But we fast forward in the thing a bit, you know, because it's important for persons to know how the Americans came here. I am sure those who are American descendants would have, you know, did their history and the research, but we have persons who are not American descendants or who would want to find out if they are, and it's good at least to let them know. So they're here in Trinidad and Tobago, and we have, you know, so many descendants, so many persons who are proud to be Merikin descendants and keeping the community alive with the customs and things that they did. Tell us, you know, in terms of how were they able to establish the community and build it? Some of the things they did and still doing.
Well, a lot of the soldiers and their families, the wives and children, a lot of them were skilled men and women, highly trained. Some were blacksmiths, some were tailors, some were nurses, some were farmers, you know, and also I would say educators, and highly spiritual as well, you know, because in looking back at the early time, hearing stories, you would see a lot of the Americans that settled end up being like teachers, a lot of teachers and preachers. We have a lot of churches in the company villages, like for example, 6th Company alone, between the 6th Company and the 3rd Company, you can find at least about 7 churches, you know?
Right.
So a lot of them were preachers and teachers. We had a lot of midwives, right? Because obviously they would practice their traditional ways of healing. We also had the tinsmiths, those guys who had the skills to make like all those kitchen utensils and tools and a lot of things that they would do on their own, and create that trade among themselves and with other groups. We also had the farmers. They were very, very, well, of course,
Right.
part of their livelihood, was farming. One of the main thing, farming, be it
Agriculture, yes.
yes, agriculture and agroforestry as well, because a lot of them would naturally go into the planting of timber, teak
Right.
and other hardwood, serret and other hardwood that they would use to build their houses and so on, and also trade as well later on. So again, we had those skills within the community, yeah, and then not forgetting the stick fighting and the other traditional things, the recreational,
As you say, stick fighting.
activities.
I don't get excited already, but remember your thought. We're gonna go for a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Ijo Olorisha charitable organization, unification of people worldwide. We exist to serve humanity. We help those in need. We help with clothes, food, shelter, and so much more. Today, we urge you to help the helpers by contributing to JMMB bank account 007 7000 17168. Thank you for helping us to continue helping those in need of help. Call us at 464 4264. Aje.
And we're back in the feminine drive, in the Gael, on the feminine drive, yes. And if you just join us, we have with us, our guest this evening is Akilah Jaramoji, and we are discussing the Merikins and their presence in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, we did the history and how they came to Trinidad and Tobago. So we into all the activities that they do and what they left us with. So Iya, before we went to the break, you touch on stick fighting, and as I tell you, I get excited one time. So tell us some more about the stick fighting tradition and some of the Merikin descendants who, probably still doing it. Their children and grandchildren, etc.
Okay, yes. For me, growing up in the company villages, it was always something we looked forward to during the Easter time, during close to Carnival, and even, later down in the year, but mainly Easter time and Carnival time. They would have sports, and then in the night you would hear, stick fighting and thing, But it was something that everybody in company villages would look forward to. And not just the bois men, but also the drummers and the chantwells, the singers and the dancers too, while they're singing and fighting at the side, you might see them women singing and dancing, And I remember, like men's, well, because he was one of my relatives, and the Coopers. Oh yes, the Cooper's one-eye sign. He was a popular one, but to me, a lot of them used to get injured, and because for this one-eye sign, meaning he got injured by playing the stick.
Yes.
He lost the eye and so along the way. And then another popular one we had here, but he died recently too, was Acid,
Acid, yes.
Yeah. So King
yes.
David, he was one who always used to work with us, and just lately, last year, he passed away. But again, it was something that some call it the calendar, but for us, we know it's just stick fighting, bois, and how they would treat the stick and stuff. You'd hear stories about,
Exactly.
those guys don't touch a stick man, a woman stick, leave that, because he set his stick and ready to get in the ring. Sometimes when we go to stick fighting events, they would just be grand charging or just moving around, just not busting each other's head or hitting one another because they're all relatives, So, but when another group, be it from Talparo or maybe from Guaya side or even Port of Spain, come down to the Mang or come down, they call Six Company the Mang, or you would see them out New Grant or even in St. Mary's, and they have the stick fighting time, that time when we celebrate and have, fun. But for them, it was sometimes for them, it was like a business, because at the end of the day, what you throw in the ring, it's all theirs. And if you bust a man's head, the money in the ring there is yours,
Yes.
So
But,
it was all about that.
Yeah, some people might look at stick fighting as brutal, and how they could have fun with something so brutal, and you had a bust a man head, but culture is something we cannot lose sight of, and that was brought here. That was brought here by the Africans, right? By the Americans, the stick fighting, and it's not so much the bust a man head, but there was or was significance in these type of things. Could you get in terms of the real essence of stick fighting, and it's not just going and bust a man head?
No, it's a form of art, it's a form of, it's a sport, and again, as I say, I've been to a lot of stick fighting events and stuff, and nobody will bust anybody's head, and you would hear people saying, bust their head now, but they know, it's just the moves, the skills, and it was really a sport. And for me, it always happened, it always end well when I witness no blood.
Yes.
Right? Whereas some people find it like boring and them man and them a busting head, man. But again, it's a science, and they will know when and how and why and to who they will want to really, fire that stick to give you a mark that, you'll never want to come back around the Merikins in that part of Trinidad, in the company villages.
And as you said, science, immediately it takes me to the spiritual aspect of the American people, because a people cannot exist without their spiritual foundation. Some people might want to extend that to say religion or religious belief. I want to say spiritual foundation, and the Americans brought with them their belief system. We, as you said earlier, in Fifth Company, Sixth Company, we still have some Baptist churches set up by the Americans. We have some churches, there's some old churches. One of the persons who we know left an indelible mark in our history is Papa Niza, Mr. Elliot. And he was American descendant. You are his grand niece, am I correct?
Yes, definitely, yes.
Right. I'm excited to hear about Papa Niza.
Okay, yes, and I know this is a story I've told, to so many people around the world, because when you talk about Merikins, how can you talk Merikins without appeasing the ancestors, without celebrating the ancestors,
Aje.
without celebrating Papa Niza, And for us, no one would say Mr. Niza. That is one thing, Everybody will call him Papa Niza, Pa, or grandfather. Even though he's not your grandfather, everybody call him grandfather or Pa or Papa, and because he was such a good man. When you talk about the Obia man and you talk about Obia, to me, if you really look at Papa Niza, Samuel Ebenezer Elliott, look at his, way of life, Obia then reflects a really good thing, a good person. And for him, he was the healer, he was the preacher, he was the teacher, he worked with midwives, the bush doctor, and everybody would go to Papa Niza, and he practiced Orisha. While a lot of the Americans would go to church and be Christians and so on, we had a group of Americans who were Orisha.
Okay.
It was not as popular as the the Spiritual Baptist, the Shouter Baptist, the London Baptist, but it was there in the community, and we had a lot of the elders there practicing the tradition, and they would leave the company villages, as I was told. Papa Nisa would go to 365 feasts in a year. I don't know if it was a joke. I think it was definitely a joke, right? But to say Papa Nisa would be in Port of Spain, Marabella, Point 14, no cell phone. I don't know how he would get information, but he was always in feast all over Trinidad and, well, Trinidad mainly, as far as I know. And I think it's something really special because they kept the tradition. They kept the Orisha tradition. They held on to that they came with from Yoruba land. They came with that from Nigeria. It stayed on plantation. It survived in the Americas and then come down home here to the company villages. And this is one thing I really, really feel good about, because just last year, a group of us went down to his house spot in Lengua.
Right.
And we started to work on a shrine. you know we worked on a shrine, and we continue to work on setting up a shrine down there in Lengua at his old house, the property there down to the bottom in Lengua. And this is what we are doing, and it is needed. It is needed right now more than ever before, because we cannot let this energy die. We cannot let the stories die. We cannot, just sit by and say, oh yeah, pa gone, and we need to carry on the work. We need to continue to celebrate the ancestors. And when we celebrate the ancestors and appease the ancestors, they will bless us. When we make them happy, we will be happy in return. And again, this is what we are doing at the moment as the children of Papa and other elders, Orisha elders in our Merikin community and around Trinidad and Tobago, but mainly in the Merikin community. We continue to live for them.
Yes, yeah. I just sat there listening to you, flabbergasted even. Hearing about a man that went into every feast, yeah, doing good. Panisa being the healer. And, we know to call someone who heals and who does good work, or be a man or be a woman, we know it's lack of knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know it's lack of knowledge. And you talk about keeping the energies alive, because it is important to bring back the community. And we have lost touch. We have lost touch with the youth. We have lost touch with people in our community, in our villages. We have lost touch. But if one was to go back, what you said, if one was to go back to how life was then, we would realize the love we had. And as you're saying, we cannot let these stories die. We just cannot. We must allow the energies to remain. And you spoke about wanting to bring back the shrine. Is it that you're building a new shrine at his home, or there was a shrine that you all are trying to revamp?
Well, anywhere Papa settled, he would have had something, whether it was known to us or not. Because when he died, he died in '69, so I was just like 3 years old,
Right.
So I don't know what was down there. Both myself and his granddaughter, Leonie Roberts, we would go down on the land, but we just feel the energy. There's a silk cotton tree, there's a cedar tree, there are certain trees that we see standing there that, we feel the energy, we feel the presence there. So definitely this is a calling, This is a calling that there need to be something set up there.
Yes.
I know that was his home, and that's where he lived, and that's where his energy was, and of course he would have had something there. So this is the calling for us. As we were often told by even Shango Omi and this is Baba Erin Folami, oh, you have to go and do something there. No, Papa waiting for you to come and do something, and they would always tell us, you have to, and now Shango Omi as well, should say, you have to do something. You have to make sure that this and this is done. And we follow the direction of the elders, because, the ancestors are talking to us. They are talking to us, and we have to listen and follow the directions.
In so many different ways. And, change is good, but I am happy that 5th Company and 6th Company retain its original name. they weren't able to, well, Fifth Company and Sixth Company didn't change its name. The other companies, what I understand, their names will change. Yeah?
We still have third company. We have third companies on the Indian Rock Road. You'll see the sign there still. We have fifth company, sixth company. Fourth company is called Williamsville or Hard Bargain.
Okay.
And first company is up at Devil's Woodyard, up on that side there. The first company. No, first company is on the Hindustan Road.
Hindustan,
you know, like when
okay.
you so like if you know where the Devil's Woodyard is.
Yes.
The volcano up there, right in that area is the first company. That's where the first company of soldiers settled. That is where the Warrior people, the first people came from Muruga and cleared land and so on to welcome us when we reached there, when we arrived in Trinidad. That's the first batch of soldiers. And this is why we always pay homage to the first peoples as well. We always appreciate our brothers, and we continue to appreciate our brothers and sisters from the Warrior community, you know. And as history, you can see now, a lot of the first people end up marrying into families, you know, of the Merikins. So you find that mixture of First People and Merikins. Still, you'll find that in South Trinidad among the Merikins. Yeah, so.
It's really applaudable that, you know, the Merikins, the Merikin descendants rather, continues to fight to keep the tradition alive. Here we have, you know, a lot of persons who ask me, so how I would know if I am American? When Ia come on the show, ask her how I will know if I'm American. So if one wants to find out if, you know, they're American descendant, how to go about that? Because I got some questions, you know, persons want to know. I want to find out.
Okay, so then you have to go and talk to your grandmother, and you have to talk to your grandfather, and you have to say, so Granny, tell me more now. You know, and then you have to look at your surname. Is it Allen or Ayres or Elliott or Atwater or Saunders or Richardson or McLeod or, you know, there's a list that we normally call, you know, the Blackwell and the Smiths and the Dunmore and the Dunton, you know, and there's a long list. And you can also go to the National Archives, or you can call any one of the American, you know, within the company villages. You can drive to the company villages. First company, as I said, you can, post-COVID lockdown, you can take a drive to New Grant and Indian Walk and you know, Matilda. You'll see signs. We were able in 2016 to get support from the Ministry of Tourism, from National Archives, and also the Merikin groups that we have here in Trinidad, Merikin Heritage Foundation, Merikin Commission, and Merikin Inc. We all came together and we put up signs in the company villages. So as soon as you drive out of Princestown and enter Matilda, you'll see a big sign telling you about Merikins. And then you drive further on, going to New Grant, you will see up by Devil's Woodyard, there's another big sign. And then on the Muruga Road in Third Company, just opposite the big lodge, the Friendly Society Hall, you would see another sign, Third Company, Merikins, and at Fifth Company as well, you will see another sign. So there's information along the road when you're in the company villages. And if not, you can get in touch with any of the Merikins that, you know, that following the names that we have here. There's a list of names, as I said. You can also check out the National Archives. The list is also there, and you will know who you are. The Coopers, the McNish, Hazel Manning, her roots, her dad, you know. Yeah, they're all Merikins. Peter Ray Blood, Gypsy, all of them, they're all Merikins.
Yeah.
I call the names.
when I put the ad out that I'm having you on the show, Peter messaged me, he WhatsApp me, say, hey, I'm American descendant, you know.
Yeah, so when we call the names, they gotta write, you know, come out and be advocates for Merikins. They gotta amplify the voices around and say, yeah, you know. we are all Americans, and we are here to share the history, to enlighten people, and most of all, to make the young people of today truly understand who they are and from whence
Proud.
they came.
Proud.
Proud to be American. We survived and continue to survive,
And
and
here,
keeping the tradition alive.
that is one of the problem. We have Amira. Listen, too much problems to identify, but one of the existing problems why our young people all over the place is because they don't know who they are. They
Exactly.
don't know their history. Now you said if someone wanted to find out, talk to granny, talk to the grandfather to find out. Some persons may not have that luxury. Their elders may have passed on. Um, they don't have any history at all existing in the family. Nobody to tell them anything. This may sound funny, but I have spoken to persons who say, "Girl, I asked my mother certain things. She ain't know na, granny and no one." It is a sad situation, but we have some people who don't have a clue about their history.
And that is bad, because even the stories of the Americans, when you look at it, there's nowhere in the history book you can find it here in Trinidad, you know. And I say thanks to Boise Huggins and John Milton Hackshaw and authors like them and John Weiss and so on, who have kept the history, who have been able to write books, and but again, it's not in the schools, and this is what we have been trying to get. We had meetings with the Ministry of Education, representatives from the Ministry of Education, asking them to, hey, to get some of our information in the schools. For example, the Cohen Hamilton Secondary School, that was built for our American children.
Yes.
And today, when you look at the percentage of children who are Americans attending that school, is very, very low. So again, these are some of the rights of our American people we have to stand up and fight for, to bring back our wellness centers, to have schools, to have cultural spaces where we can train our young people in dance and even the bar and other things that we can, and drumming and the tambu bamboo and these things. We want to keep it alive. Hence the reason why the American Heritage Foundation is working hard, not just in Trinidad, but around the Caribbean, to bring people together who have suffered from that, the horror of the transatlantic trade, that journey, and settled around the Caribbean and see themselves as Maroons and identify themselves as Maroons and work together so we can stand up and fight for the rights of our children, what our foreparents went through. We have to now defend that, So again, this is what we are doing as Americans, and along with Americans, the Maroons around the Caribbean, we are working together to ensure that our children enjoy, the rights and freedom that our foreparents fought for.
And yeah, as you said, fight for the rights and freedom. When the Americans came here, they came with the promise of receiving lands. Correct?
Yeah.
Right. And they were given, well, again, I was not wrong, but according to history, they were given, I think it's 16 acres per household. And we can say that was a brilliant start for the American families, for the communities. What has become of those lands? Would we say that they were properly utilized, they remain in the community so that generations would benefit?
Oh, yes, we do have some of the families still, can show title to the lands and so on, but a lot of them end up losing the lands along the way. Other cultures who end up after, post-emancipation, when they were granted the indentured workers, when they were granted a certain parcel, say for example, they were granted 7 acres, they end up encroaching on other, spaces that belongs to the Americans, and this still needs to be sorted out right now, because more and more we are losing our lands. Yeah, the state as well end up taking some of our lands. The energy sector, for example, like Petrotrin, end up using a lot of our family lands. So again, this is something that we have to look into, and some of our Americans have been working with, some of our Americans who are lawyers have been working with Americans in the community, or put the offer out for them to come forward and, for assistance in terms of retaining what was rightfully theirs. So it's a lot of struggle, but it's, we are paying some attention to it. Yeah.
But I would imagine, as you speak about, the state reclaiming land or taking lands where, of course, the oil or the natural resources lie. And I would imagine, well, for developmental reasons, etc., the state might decide, listen, we need this to help build the country. And that may not be bad, but once adequate compensation is given, right? Once adequate compensation is given, I don't think anyone would be against development in a country.
No, I think a lot of them agreed, in some cases, and then they had no other choice. Some of them did not even know where the boundaries lie and so on. So again, it was just easily, taken away. Some were promised to be compensated, and, we still have to look into that, because it is not happening today. A lot of them end up losing their lands, and whether they were compensated or not, I don't know. Right. So we need to look into that, and but this whole land rights and looking into the security of the American lands is a big issue right now, and we are, trying to mobilize Americans to come together and let's talk about, their rights and how those who are in position to help can reach out and help them.
Can reach out and help. The Merikin Foundation here, I know you all had an award function. Maybe it was the first one I heard about, where you all recognize persons of Merikin descendants who did notable acts. You want to tell us some more about the foundation and the whole award scheme?
Oh yeah, we had that event. That was an event in 2016 when we were celebrating our 200th anniversary of being here from 1816 to 2016, and it was a joint effort by some of the Merikin groups, the Merikin Heritage Foundation, the Merikin Incorporation, and the Merikin Commission. So again, that was an event where we recognize Americans who have been doing or continue to make great contribution for the advancement of the Americans in Trinidad and Tobago and around the world, and they were given the awards and so on, and recognized in a way that this was never done before, and it was the first time. And some of them, I think, were like still in closet of coming out and saying, I am Merikin, I'm proud to be Merikin, So this was a way not to really expose them, but to make them feel really special, and to give them some get them in the groove, give them some roles and responsibilities of helping to build the American communities, because a lot of them would have been like people who are doing very well in the community and doing well within, Trinidad and Tobago, great contributors, but at the same time, who still haven't been working directly in the community. So following that award ceremony, we had some of them pledge to continue to work on the ground, to look at some of the issues and challenges that we face still in the American community, continue to talk about food security, wellness, the rights to education, we talked about giving young people scholarships. We talked about getting American history more into the school books and so on. We talked about setting up American Heritage headquarters as well. So these are some things that we have earmarked to do, and soon come you'll hear more about it.
A lot of work here. Sounds like a lot of work to be done. I would really like, especially to see the history documented in school books. I think that would be a great move. And we cannot give up. You know, the
Yes.
ancestors never give up, and we have to also continue for our generation behind us. We just cannot give up the fight. So I know it takes a lot of perseverance, it takes a lot of strength to be harping at the same thing over and over.
Mhm.
Sometimes you probably wonder if people are not listening to you or paying attention, but he has strength to you and the other American descendants who are working hard at this. And I think eventually the information will end up in the history books. I
Yes,
want to believe that.
definitely. Because what we are doing right now, what we have done for the past 5 years, is to go into the communities, go into the schools. We had the American poetry competition in 8 secondary schools around southeastern side of Trinidad. We went through. We also did Mr. and Miss Merikin, where we had
Wow.
young again with about 8 schools. We had a beauty competition, well, a fashion competition, where we give them countries to study, where Americans came from Sierra Leone, the Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Ivory Coast, and they all had to learn something and dress like, the natives and so on, and say something, in Yoruba or Swahili or Fulani, Bemba, Zulu, Mande, some one of the languages, they had to say something. It was really nice. And following that was with secondary school youths. And then we had a primary school competition as well, an art competition, where the young people had to draw like how draw a plantation or draw American village, or draw something that really tells the story of Americans. And that was really good. It was well received. We had American Sports Day where the youths came out and, just to be part of something to connect themselves, a sense of identity, And now, as I say, we have in 2014, we signed a memorandum of understanding with Suriname and Jamaica,
Right?
recognizing each other as Maroons. Well, already we know about Jamaica and Suriname as Maroons, that history is out there. But as Americans, to understand that what our parents fought for and how they did it, the marriage that took place when they burned down plantations and freed themselves and so on, seeing ourselves as Maroons and how we can move from this level of just being here to something more, advanced in the
Yes.
life. So here we are working together with Maroons around the Caribbean, and in 2019 we went to the UN seeking Indigenous people status for all Maroons around the Caribbean, and American Maroons are included in that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you have your hands full. You involve. I mean, there is so much to you, For persons who are viewing Akilah Jaramoji, there is the jewelry maker part to her. The person also who is involved in um it's slipping me, deforestation project, reforestation
Reforestation.
project, and I ain't even touched that yet. I don't know how Ia does it, right? And going forward here, I read where, as you mentioned, going to the UN. Next year in 2022, you will be going back to the UN again.
Yes, definitely. Yes. So we are preparing ourselves for that journey. And last year, in 2019, we went with just the 3 countries. And this year, we are now mobilizing, and we is our team from Trinidad here doing most of the work, mobilizing 11 countries to join, to come along so we can go to stronger contingent to the UN. We are working with the Maroons from Sierra Leone. There's a Maroon church in Sierra Leone.
Wow.
And well, that was one of the main transshipment point where a
Yes.
lot of us came from, Sierra Leone to the west. And we have Guadeloupe and Martinique and St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Barbados, Jamaica, well, of course, Suriname and Grenada and Carriacou. So we also recognize the Temni people in Carriacou. That's an indigenous group of people that came from Sierra Leone, and we are connected to them as well, right? Our neighbors, right there, Grenada, Carriacou, and a lot of people in Trinidad, are from Grenada and Carriacou as well. The
Yes.
Bedouins, I met some of the Bedouins in Carriacou, when we had that big celebration. So again, it's connecting the dots and making sure that we keep history alive and we keep our people exposed to the history and make sure that we are part of it, so the next generation can have something to hold on to, and to be proud of.
Definitely. And I say this with no apology that the other ethnic groups does it. They do it. They keep their tradition alive. They keep their culture alive. They make sure that their children are educated in terms of the history. That has nothing to do with being a Trinidadian. We know we are Trinidadians, but your history, your lineage, ancestors, they don't mix matters with that. It seems like we are the only group of people who don't really care where we come from, we history, whatever. We like as they say, we like a shaft. Some of us rather like a shaft blowing in the wind. Wherever we land, wherever. But it is important for those of us who are fighting the fight to continue to fight the fight, so that we could keep the tradition and the energies of our ancestors alive. And you spoke about Karaku, and immediately Saraka came into my head.
Yes, we had the celebration there. We experienced the Saraka, and that was really good. Early in the morning, you're going out there doing what you have to do, appeasing the ancestors, keeping abreast with the ancestors, and we call their names. We call the list of Merikin ancestors. We call all the ancestors. Everybody had a chance to call on their ancestors and appease their energy. And at the end, it was so light and so, enlightening. You felt like a baptism, like you went underwater and you was renewed. And I think this is the kind of thing that we need to continue to do. Yeah, because we cannot walk here unguided and unprotected.
No.
We need the powers and the blessings from, the unseen forces, from the ancestors,
Definitely.
to survive what is happening here now and what is to come. So again, in order to set a foundation again, as I say, for the youth, we need to dig deeper. We need to dig deep and connect. We need to connect. And I give thanks to the Orisha community as well, because we are one of the largest group outside of Haiti and Brazil and Cuba and even neighboring Venezuela. We are one of the largest group of the small Caribbean countries that maintain this tradition, and I say thanks to the Orisha community for keeping our tradition alive as well.
Maintain it with a fight, and we still, there is still ridicule and discrimination, but
that's okay.
The ancestors I always say the ancestors are neither deaf, dumb, or blind. Whether they are Americans, and as we said earlier, for those of you who join us late, Merikins is because they didn't want to say I am an American. Say me Merikin. But they are Africans. They came from the motherland. So it's not that they were born in America. We need to understand that they weren't born in America. They said me Merikin because, well, of course, there is where they had to they were forced to make it their homes. But
it's a sense of identity.
Exactly. We are talking about Africans who came from Nigeria, who came from Ghana, who came from different parts of Africa, who were forced and taken to America and other parts of the world. So here, so much we could touch on. What is there in store in terms of immediate? Well, we have COVID happening, and that has retarded everybody movement. But as you said, I know I needed to mention something. I saw a short film with Abio Jackson and Sheena and yourself involved in it, which had to do with commemorating Merikins as well.
Yes,
right.
I am Merikin, yes.
Can we expect more of that type of work for persons to view? Can we expect more of these things happening, coming out, visuals?
Oh, yes, and with Abio Abio being a direct descendant, she's very much aware of the need to showcase and keep the history alive, the Merikin energy alive, the
Yes.
Merikin ancestors and energy alive. And she too will be joining us in Dominica. And what we are working on, we are calling on videographers, we are calling on young people who are really IT savvy and good
Yeah.
at making short films and so on to start documenting stuff on Americans, and we are looking forward to, seeing some more like what you see I Americans coming out of our American community. We also will be celebrating our arrival on the 20th and 21st of August.
Right.
That's American arrival. Hope that the COVID ban is lifted a bit and the curfew and restriction of movements is lifted a bit. If not, we'll have to do things virtually. But
Yeah.
again, we'll be celebrating our arrival on the 20th and 21st of August this year. And yeah, we continue to share the word far and wide, and throughout the Caribbean. And you're hearing a lot of people saying, I have roots in Trinidad, I have roots from Guaya and Mayaro and Rio Claro, and they're Americans too,
Yes.
I have from Muruga to Guaya, you will find Americans. In the north, you will find Americans, all over Trinidad
All over
and Tobago
Trinidad.
because of our great contribution to building Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to check out. I need to check the name and find out if I am a descendant, and I feel so, I feel
Yeah,
so
sure
good.
you are on the list, girl. We have a long list.
That
We have a
energy too
really
strong.
long list.
And as you mentioned Abio's name, you said, she's so enthusiastic about it, and yes, whenever she puts the daughter of this and granddaughter of, she don't mix matters. And that is what we need, that type of proudness. Yeah, I want to take this opportunity to thank you. Thank you for giving us your time, because I know, as I said before, you are super busy. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it, but I always say it's better to be very busy than have nothing to do. So I want to thank you for giving us of your time and information, valuable information. And yes, here, let's revamp the space down by Paniza.
Definitely. Yes, yes, yes. We will. We will. And look out for a GAIAP call on that, because we are planning a GAIAP. And again, because of COVID, and we have to comply to the laws and directions, because it's all about safety and wellness and everything, and,
Yes.
And saving lives and so on. So as soon as we can move around and get our GAIAP going, we will set a date where we invite people to come and help us set up, continue work
Yes.
on the shrine space. So I know Papa Nisa is smiling right now because it will happen.
As you say, GAIAP, for those of you who don't know what GAIAP is, that is like somebody in the community building a house. Yeah, tell me if I go in right there, somebody building a house, you work with food, they cook food, they have drinks, and we go on and we help. It was each one help one. It was not so
Yes.
much about money, and you always have to have money to pay somebody. That is what GAIAP is about. Each one help one. Correct? I'm
Yeah,
correct here?
GAIAP is all about lend hand. GAIAP is working together for a positive cause.
Yes.
And so you can, if you want to build a house, you want to do something special, you want to, build a shrine, you want to clean, a space, you want to help like an old lady, clean up her house and just volunteer and stuff. That's a GAIAP. You cook food, there's somebody will beat drum or play music, and you dance and sing and you work and you get it done. And that is GAIAP, and that was a system used within our American communities. Yeah.
And it exists in Grenada. When I visited Grenada in 2018, they have this big pot that they're cooking in the community by the side of the road, and you can go and get food, But I don't want to keep you any longer. The conversations have to swing again in the next direction. So thank you very much, Ia. All the best in your endeavors. You and the rest of Merikin Descendants and the Heritage Foundation. And I know you say you're preparing to go to Dominica. May your journey be a safe and blessed one. and all your endeavors with all that you're set out to do. And may we see the information in the school books. You see that one?
Ashe.
Yes.
Definitely.
That one has to
Yes.
happen. The ancestors will make it happen. So thanks again, Iya, and enjoy the
Welcome.
rest of your Friday evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Give thanks. Give thanks. Ashe.
Ashe. So, that was Iya Akilah Jaramoji. And she spoke, a lot of information about the Merikins. And so much more information still, But we only have an hour on the show. And she gave a lot of valuable information. A lot. But I like the guy up, You feel we can bring back that in Trinidad and Tobago? Lend a hand. Some people still do it, I know. I go in and give Iya Aje, Warrior Empress a hand. I go in and give Uncle Errol a hand. He putting up a foundation. We go in and help him mix some cement. You still have people that do that. But not much. Not much. People say, boy, not me, nah. She had to pay me, boy. I ain't going through that, but times change and what they say, so do people. But those were the customs that they left us, and it's up to us, Things are lost because we choose to let it slip away from us. It's not just like that. If we don't do what it takes to keep and preserve our culture and our heritage, then it's going to leave us. It's going to leave us. And we are seeing the effects today in our community. Forget COVID. When I mean forget COVID, the communities we know have been going downhill for a while, right? We are losing that love. And we don't want to blame COVID for that. Things have been happening a while now. But we cannot lose hope. We just cannot lose hope. So, here's where I say my goodbye until next Friday. Yeah? This is Warrior Empress saying, stay safe. Continue to do what you need to wash your hands. Keep your social distance. Don't get too excited. We get in there. Guests going to come back in the studio live. There's nothing like interaction. Face-to-face interaction, right? We're going to get there one day at a time. So this is Warrior Empress saying, enjoy the rest of your Friday evening and see you next time on The Feminine Drive in the Gael.
Hello, I am Atto Bolden, and you are watching the excellent, the fabulous Gael. At last, we own television.